Picture this. You are standing at a doorway, you beg God to open, and when it finally creaked wide, you sprinted through with dreams in your hands and fire in your heart. Then, just when you thought you had arrived, He shut it. Not halfway, not soft and gentle. Shut. And everything in you wanted to rattle that handle and cry, "Lord, bring me back to what I knew." But hear me today. When God shifts your path, He is not punishing you. He is positioning you. Sometimes God will close a chapter not because it was bad, but because it is too small for where He is taking you next. You cannot walk into destiny while dragging yesterday's comfort, yesterday's pride, yesterday's plan. If He closed it, it is because He has already prepared something greater. So dry your tears, square your shoulders, and don't cling to what He already called finished. The new thing is waiting, and your faith has to move first. When we say divine closure is protection, not punishment, we are talking about something that sits at the core of faith and trust. So many of us have stood in that emotional hallway where a door we prayed for suddenly shuts in our face. And instinctively we assume we have failed, that we are being disciplined, that God is displeased with us. The human heart loves completion, control, understanding. We crave certainty and explanation. And when life takes a turn that feels abrupt or unwanted, we label it loss instead of guidance. Yet faith calls us to flip that script. Faith invites us to believe that God sees danger we cannot see, that He hears conversations we will never hear, that He knows the traps, the pitfalls, the betrayals, the stagnation that would quietly choke our purpose. In those moments, the closure we fight against may be the very shield that keeps us from walking into a season that would have broken us. Many times the hardest no becomes the sweetest yes in hindsight, but hindsight only comes after we have walked by faith through the discomfort. There are paths that look blessed on the surface, but are poison underneath. There are relationships that sparkle in the beginning but drain our spirits in the end. There are opportunities glittering like gold that would demand we trade our identity, compromise our values, or shrink our calling. God's protection is not always padded and gentle. Sometimes it feels like subtraction, delay, frustration. But divine wisdom is never reactive. It does not panic. It does not scramble. God is not trying to catch up to your life. He is orchestrating it from a view you cannot access. When He closes a door, He is not withholding goodness. He is safeguarding destiny. Imagine if every desire we ever had came to fruition, if every plan we sketched became reality, if every person we wanted to hold on to remained. We would be living lives shaped by impulse instead of purpose, by emotion instead of vision. Growth requires pruning, and pruning is always uncomfortable. A gardener cuts not to harm, but to shape, to strengthen, to bring forth new life. In the same way, divine closure trims away branches that would keep us from bearing fruit. The pain of the cut does not mean the gardener is cruel. It means the gardener sees potential the branch cannot yet see in itself. When God removes, He intends to replace. When He closes, He intends to redirect. When He says no, He is clearing space for a yes that aligns with His promise instead of our preference. The struggle often lies in timing. We want the full explanation immediately. We want the new door visible the moment the old one shuts. But if God revealed everything at once, there would be no room for trust. Trust is the currency of faith. Trust is forged in confusion and strengthened in stillness. It says, even when I do not understand, I believe you are good. Even when I feel disappointed, I believe you are guiding me. Even when I cannot trace your hand, I will trust your heart. That posture turns closed doors into altars where we surrender our plans and receive His peace. A closed door can be the most loving act of protection when it keeps you from settling. Sometimes God will seal a chapter because you were starting to shrink inside it, because your comfort was becoming your cage, because your dreams were being diluted by convenience. What looks like rejection can actually be rescue. What feels like an ending may be an invitation to expansion. There are times when God shuts something, not because it failed, but because you outgrew it. And if He had allowed you to stay, you would have lived a small life wrapped in familiar walls instead of stepping into wider territory. Protection is not only defense against harm, it is preservation of purpose. God will not let you anchor where He intends you to soar. If that means disrupting your plans, He will. If it means disappointing your expectations, He will. If it means moving you away from people you love, He will. The love of God is fierce, intentional, and eternal. It is not fragile, and it is not indulgent. It does not cater to our fleeting desires. It develops our destiny. A child thinks a parent is unfair for saying no to candy before dinner, but the parent sees nourishment beyond the moment. In a similar way, divine closure often protects us from spiritual malnutrition, from choosing sweetness over substance, from chasing what feels good instead of what is good. One day, you will look back on a closed door that broke your heart and whisper gratitude instead of grief. One day you will see how that season of uncertainty led to clarity, how that disappointment set the stage for fulfillment, how that interruption saved you from compromise. Protection rarely comes with applause. It often comes disguised as frustration, loss, delay, or confusion. But if you lean into faith, you will discover that every divine no carries the DNA of a greater yes. God is not out to punish you. He is determined to preserve you, promote you, and prepare you. And every closed door is proof that He loves you too much to let you settle for less than He designed. Faith moves forward, not backward. That truth challenges us at the deepest level because it means faith is not nostalgia. It is not memory. It is not comfort. Faith is motion. Faith is stepping toward what has not yet unfolded, trusting that God is already in the place you have not reached. We often treat faith like a warm blanket we wrap around ourselves while sitting still, but true faith behaves more like a lamp placed in the hand of someone walking through darkness. It does not light the whole road. It lights the next step. And to receive that light, you have to move. Standing still feels safer. Looking back feels familiar. The past may not have been perfect, but it was known. You had a system. You had a rhythm. You had a sense of control, even if it was just the illusion of control. The future holds none of those guarantees. So when God nudges you forward, every fear inside you may rise up. What if it does not work? What if you fail? What if you lose what you had and never gain anything better? Those questions are loud, and they love to echo. But faith answers them not with certainty, but with trust. You do not move because you know the outcome. You move because you know the one who calls you. In Scripture, every miracle requires motion. Waters parted when feet stepped in. Walls fell after a march. Healing came when someone reached, touched, walked, washed. God moves with movers. He blesses obedience in motion. You cannot pray for new levels while clutching old ground. You cannot embrace the future while gripping yesterday. Faith is like a seed. It only reveals its growth after being buried, stretched, and pushed into unfamiliar soil. The burial does not feel holy. It feels like loss. But forward is where resurrection lies. Backward leads to stagnation and regret. If you look at the children of Israel wandering in the wilderness, their greatest temptation was not rebellion in the way we usually think. Their greatest temptation was to go back to what they already knew. Even if it was bondage, it was predictable. Even if it was uncomfortable, it was familiar. They cried out for Egypt, not because Egypt was good, but because progress was painful. They wanted the security of slavery more than the unknown of promise. That is what happens when we value familiarity over faith. We choose captivity that looks comfortable rather than freedom that feels risky. God had already opened the path. He had parted seas, rained bread, led by fire and cloud. Yet their hearts still turned backward. That backward glance is dangerous. It steals momentum and feeds doubt. Lot's wife looked back and turned into salt, frozen in the past, unable to move into the future God had prepared. That is what backward living does to the soul. It freezes you in a moment that no longer exists. Faith invites us to pivot, to release, to step forward even when our legs tremble and our voice quivers. Moving forward does not mean you never feel fear. It means fear does not get the final vote. It means you let your hope outrun your hesitation. You may feel unqualified, uncertain, unprepared. Faith thrives in the soil of inadequacy because it reminds us that power does not come from our strength, but from God's presence. When you cling to what you know, you rely on yourself. When you move into what you have not seen, you rely on God. Forward movement is an act of surrender. It says, God, I trust your timeline more than my logic. It says, even if I cannot explain the next chapter, I believe it carries purpose. It says, my best days are not behind me, they are ahead. Too many people stop walking because they think faith guarantees immediate clarity. But faith does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers, keep going, when everything in you screams, turn back. Sometimes it feels like the smallest step, like sending one more resume, praying one more prayer, trying one more time, forgiving again, believing again. Forward is often quiet before it becomes powerful. The enemy of progress is not always failure. Sometimes the enemy is comfort. You can become so attached to what used to be that you sabotage what could be. God cannot pour new wine into old wineskins, and He cannot lead someone forward who keeps anchoring their spirit to yesterday. This does not mean we disrespect the past. We honor it, we learn from it, we give thanks for it. But we do not worship it. Memory is a place to visit, not a place to live. Every forward step builds spiritual muscle. Every time you choose trust over fear, obedience over comfort, movement over memory, you become a little stronger, a little wiser, a little more aligned with purpose. Forward may cost something. It may cost comfort, approval, familiarity. But backward costs more. Backward costs destiny. Faith is not a rewind button. Faith is a compass pointing toward promise. If you keep moving, even when you do not feel ready, you will meet provision you would have missed standing still. God works in motion. He guides the steps you take, not the steps you only think about. So take the step. Lean forward into grace. Step toward the unknown, trusting it is held by a known God. Let the past be a chapter, not a prison. Faith is not found in staying where you are. Faith is found in going where He leads. And forward is where God is waiting. Growth requires release of familiar comforts. That truth hits differently when you are the one standing on the edge of change with comfort pulling at your ankles like quicksand. We love progress in theory. We love the idea of evolving, being promoted, stepping into purpose, leveling up. But growth is not a cozy blanket. It is a stretching, a pulling, a rearranging of everything we thought we needed. Comfort is warm, but it can also be a cage. You know the type, the routines we cling to, because they make us feel safe, even when they no longer serve us. The relationships we hold onto, because we fear loneliness more than we fear being drained. The habits we keep, because they numb us even as they stunt us. Familiar comfort gives us predictability, but destiny demands expansion, and expansion never feels comfortable at first. God will often call you into places where your old ways do not work, where your old thinking feels too small, where the crowd you once ran with cannot keep pace. And when that stretching starts, your flesh will beg you to retreat. It will whisper, go back to where you knew the rules. It will say, stay here, where you know who you are. It will feed on nostalgia and fear, serving them to you like they are wisdom. But the truth is not always friendly to the feelings we cling to. Growth means letting go of spaces you have already outgrown. It means leaving behind the applause of people who only knew you at one level. It means trusting that God is not moving you to embarrass you, but to elevate you. New seasons come with new demands, and you cannot carry yesterday's mindset into tomorrow's promise. That is why the unknown feels uncomfortable. You are shedding skin. You are being unmade in one form so you can emerge in another. Think about a seed. It looks complete until it is planted. Then the breaking begins, the shell splits. The darkness surrounds it. The soil presses in. But in that hidden place, life stirs. Roots dig. Shoots push upward. Breakthrough looks messy before it looks beautiful. If the seed resisted the break, because it preferred the comfort of its shell, it would die small. We do the same when we cling to safety instead of stepping into development. You cannot grow while gripping what was. You cannot reach while holding tight to the familiar. Even faith feels awkward when you first stretch it, but that discomfort is holy. It is your spirit expanding to make room for more. Sometimes God will allow your comfort to dry up just so you stop treating temporary places like permanent homes. He will let the job get uncomfortable, the friendship feel tight, the routine feel dull. It isn't punishment. It is preparation. It is God saying you cannot stay here. I love you too much to let you shrink. When you pray for elevation, He answers with a ladder, not a couch. And ladders are climbed, not lounged on. Some people wonder why they feel stuck. They pray for open doors but refuse to walk through them, because stepping through means leaving comfort behind. You cannot heal and hold on to what hurt you. You cannot step into new favor while staying attached to old fear. You cannot ask for wings and cling to branches. The truth is, most growth looks like sacrifice before it looks like blessing. It looks like loneliness before it looks like community. It looks like confusion before it looks like clarity. And that transition space, that awkward, unsteady season, is where many quit. They think discomfort means they made a wrong turn. But discomfort might just be divine confirmation that you are moving. Butterflies do not complain about the cocoon once they fly. But breaking free is uncomfortable. Transformation is always uncomfortable. Familiarity is seductive, though. It whispers, remember when life was simpler. It tempts you to shrink back, to operate at the level that used to work. But used to work is not the same as still works. Spiritual maturity is learning to bless seasons as they end, not cling to them out of fear. When you release what used to hold you, your hands are free to receive what God is handing you. Letting go is not loss when it leads to alignment. And yes, when you grow, not everyone will understand. Some will say you changed like it is a bad thing. But staying the same in a world where God is calling you higher is the real danger. You are not meant to shrink to fit rooms that can no longer hold your calling. You are not meant to apologize for evolving. The people meant for your next season will meet you there. Comfort wants to keep you predictable, but calling wants to make you powerful. And you cannot be both. So if life feels uncomfortable right now, do not panic. You are being stretched, not punished. You are growing beyond what you used to be and into who you were always meant to be. Lean into the pull. Release what is familiar but no longer fruitful. Trust that God is not taking comfort from you. He is giving you capacity. And capacity is the cradle of destiny. Keep moving. Keep stretching. Keep releasing. Growth hurts, but staying small hurts more. Closed doors redirect to greater purpose. Sometimes that simple truth feels like a warm blanket, and other times it feels like salt on a fresh wound. Because when a door shuts unexpectedly, when a dream collapses, when a relationship ends, when a job falls through, when the thing you thought was part of your future suddenly becomes part of your past, it does not feel divine. It feels disappointing, disorienting, and downright unfair. We pray, we plan, we invest our hearts, and then boom, the access gets denied. And in those moments, our faith feels less like confidence and more like confusion. But beneath the sting, beneath the frustration, beneath that ache that makes you question where you went wrong, God is quietly guiding your steps toward a place you may not have chosen on your own. Closed doors are not the end of your story. They are often turning points, moments where God says, not here, not this, not anymore, because He sees what you cannot see. We tend to think that if God wanted to bless us, every door would swing open with ease. But purpose is not always wrapped in convenience. Sometimes the greatest blessings hide behind blocked entrances. A closed door is often God's way of protecting what He planted inside you. Sometimes He stops you before you settle. He shuts what looks good because He knows it would have cost you more than you realize. You may think you were ready, but God knows readiness is not just about skill or enthusiasm. It is about timing, character, strength, and alignment. A door can open prematurely just as easily as it can open right on time. And premature opportunities can destroy what you were meant to grow into. Closed doors save us from stepping into rooms where our soul wouldn't survive the atmosphere. And the crazy part is, we rarely know that in the moment it feels like rejection. It feels like failure. It feels like the future is shrinking instead of expanding. But perspective is powerful, and time has a way of revealing what tears hide. One day you look back and thank God that job didn't work out. That person didn't stay. That plan didn't unfold. You realize the door wasn't just closed. You were redirected. God did not say no to crush you. He said no to carry you. He rerouted you towards something healed, higher, holier, healthier. Purpose is not always a straight line. It winds, it detours, it curves around mountains you didn't know were there. Our instinct is to push harder when doors don't open. We obsess, we replay, we strategize, we force. We knock until our knuckles bleed. But there comes a moment when God doesn't need you to push. He needs you to trust. Trust that His no is just as kind as His yes. Trust that if He closes one path, He is already building another. Trust that if He blocks what you wanted, He is making room for what you need. We serve a God who does not waste anything. Not time, not tears, not effort, not heartbreak. Which means a closed door is never random. It is precise. It is intentional. It is tailor-fit to where He is taking you next. Imagine walking down a hallway with many doors. Some open easily. Some stay shut no matter how much you turn the handle. And then at the very end, there is one door glowing with promise. One door designed for you. One door that leads to a space prepared with your destiny in mind. If God let you through every door along the way, you might stop halfway and call it success when it was only comfort. You might settle for the good and miss the greater. Closed doors shepherd us toward chosen doors. They teach us discernment. They strengthen trust. They refine desire so we stop chasing opportunity and start following calling. Sometimes, a closed door happens because the environment is not ready for you yet. Other times, you are not ready for the environment. And there are moments when it has nothing to do with readiness and everything to do with placement. God is strategic like that. He knows where your gift will flourish, where your voice will matter, where your presence will shift atmospheres. You might be trying to bloom in soil that was never assigned to your roots. So God closes the door and redirects you to the ground where your seed can actually grow. And let's be real. Closed doors hurt. They bruise ego. They shake security. They challenge identity, especially when we wrapped our worth around what we were doing instead of who we are in Him. But purpose isn't tied to a position. Destiny is not limited to a particular location or relationship or opportunity. What God has for you cannot be stolen, delayed permanently, or diminished by human decisions. Closed doors simply tell you this door was not your doorway. And when one shuts, you are not left stranded. You are being rerouted. Think about a GPS. When you miss a turn or a road is blocked, it does not panic. It recalculates. It finds another route to get you where you belong. God does the same with our life. And sometimes He recalculates before we even go the wrong way. So instead of thinking a closed door is God taking from you, start seeing it as God guiding you. He isn't limiting your life, He's protecting it. He's shaping your path with love, not restriction. And while you stand in front of a closed door, wondering why it's shut, there is another door opening in the direction He has appointed. You are not being pushed out. You are being pushed forward. That dream you thought died may just be evolving. That loss you mourned may be the seed of a greater season. Do not cling to the doorway that closed. Keep walking, keep trusting, keep expecting. Closed doors don't end purpose. They escort you toward it. God is not done. He is setting the stage for something bigger, broader, deeper than you imagined. And one day, when the next door swings wide and you walk into a space that fits your spirit, your calling, and your growth, you will realize the closure was never rejection. It was redirection into destiny itself. Obedience activates the next season. You can pray, you can fast, you can journal, you can vision board, you can speak in faith and declare promises. But at some point, the next level requires not just belief, but obedience. Obedience is that quiet, often uncomfortable yes to God when your emotions say no, when your logic says wait, and when your pride says I've got my own plan. It is the bridge between where you are and where God is calling you. So many people wonder why their season feels stuck, why breakthrough feels delayed, why doors seem jammed, even though they know God has more for them. And sometimes the answer isn't in praying harder. It is in obeying sooner. We treat obedience like a suggestion instead of a strategy. But in the kingdom, obedience isn't optional if you want to walk in fullness. It is alignment. It is surrender. It is trust in motion. When God says move, timing matters. When He says forgive, healing starts not when you feel ready, but when you obey. When He nudges you to leave a space, a habit, a relationship, a mindset, the shift begins the moment you release, not the moment you fully understand. Breakthrough rarely comes before obedience. It often comes because of it. Think about every major turning point in Scripture. Moses had to stretch his staff before the Red Sea parted. Abraham had to walk up the mountain before the ram appeared. Joshua had to march before the walls fell. Peter had to cast the net again before the fish came. Faith wasn't passive belief. It was obedient action. Heaven moves when earth obeys. Yet obedience is rarely convenient. It can feel like sacrifice. It can feel like loss. It can feel like letting go of control and stepping into territory that feels shaky. That's because obedience is not about comfort. It's about trust. It prays your fingers off your plan so you can receive God's plan. Sometimes we ask God to bless decisions He never told us to make, and we get frustrated when things don't flow. But flow follows alignment. Favor follows surrender. Provision follows instruction. You cannot claim the promises of God while ignoring the process of God. The hardest obedience is often the one that looks illogical. Leave when it feels safe. Stay when you feel restless. Apologize when you want to justify. Sow when you feel empty. Start when you don't feel ready. Rest when you want to hustle. It's upside down to human thinking, but perfectly aligned with kingdom breakthrough. God doesn't need your comfort. He needs your yes. That yes might look small at first. Send the email, set the boundary. Walk away from the drama. Start the class. Delete the number. Wake up and pray. Change the routine. Forgive the person. Sow the seed. These simple acts of obedience can unlock things you've been praying about for years. Heaven is not moved by wishful thinking. It is moved by yielded hearts. One of the biggest traps we fall into is waiting to feel ready or waiting until we understand every detail. But if understanding were a prerequisite for obedience, none of us would take a step. God doesn't always give explanations ahead of time because explanations feed control, but obedience builds trust. And trust is the currency of spiritual maturity. When God gives instruction, He is not trying to burden you. He is trying to bless you. His commands are never random or cruel. They are protective, strategic, and purposeful. He sees the whole map. He knows what's ahead. He knows the timing, the relationships, the resources that will meet you on the other side of your yes. And when you delay obedience, you delay access to what He prepared. Partial obedience is still disobedience. Obeying halfway keeps you stuck halfway. So many of us are standing at the door of a new season waiting for God to open it while God is waiting for us to turn the handle. There are gifts tied to your obedience, people tied to your obedience, healing tied to your obedience, elevation tied to your obedience. The world is not changed by people who feel inspired. It is changed by people who hear and obey. And here's a secret. Obedience gets easier when you remember who is asking. God is not fickle. He is not petty. He is not guessing. He is not experimenting with your life. He is not asking you to obey so you can fail. He is asking you to obey so you can flourish. Every yes makes you stronger. Every moment you choose His voice over your comfort, you build spiritual muscle. And just like exercise, the first reps burn, but eventually strength rises. You start recognizing His leading faster. You start trusting quicker. You stop negotiating with fear. You stop entertaining doubt. You stop asking how and start saying, "Here I am." Obedience also positions you for divine timing. God is not just trying to get you somewhere. He's trying to get you there prepared. A blessing received too early can become a burden, but obedience shapes you, refines you, humbles you, trains you. It stretches your capacity so when the door opens, you can walk through with maturity, depth, and wisdom. There will be people who do not understand your obedience. They may think you're walking away from something good, abandoning what looks secure, moving too fast, moving too slow. But obedience is not about explanation. It's about dedication. It is not voted on by others. It is anchored in God's voice. You do not owe people clarity about what God whispered to you in private. When you obey, the evidence will speak. And often, the proof comes after the step, not before it. So if you are standing at the edge of change, if you feel that nudge, that tug, that gentle push from God, do not ignore it. Your next season is not waiting on circumstances. It is waiting on your compliance. Heaven is ready. The promise is written. The path is set, but your feet have to move. Obedience isn't about perfection. It's about direction. It's one yes at a time, one step at a time, trusting that God honors every act of surrender. Say yes, even if your voice shakes. Step even if your knees tremble. Trust even if you cannot trace. Because obedience is not losing control. It is handing control back to the one who never lost it. And when you do, doors open, seasons shift, and destiny begins to unfold right before your eyes. So as we wrap this up, I want you to hear this clearly. When God shifts your path, it is never to punish you, it is always to position you. Closed doors are not the end of your story. They are detours to your destiny. Let go of what He has closed. Release the comfort that no longer serves you, and step forward in faith. Even when the next step feels uncertain, trust His timing, obey His guidance, and remember that every no is simply a redirection to a greater. Yes, your past does not define your future. Your yesterday does not dictate your tomorrow. Keep moving, keep trusting, keep believing, and watch as God unfolds the next season of your life in ways that surpass every expectation. Don't cling to what He closed. Embrace what He is opening. Your destiny is waiting, and it is bigger than you ever imagined.